Sometimes the world tries to convince you that you must shine brighter, run faster, look perfect, and achieve endlessly just to be considered worthy. And if you have ever felt that pressure tightening around your chest, today you and I are going to breathe again. Because the most fascinating truth, the one people rarely talk about, changes everything about comparison. And yes, I saved the most surprising part for the end. Before we dive in, let me remind you of something personal. I've spent years working inside major companies around the world, coaching women, supporting them, watching their struggles and breakthroughs. And now, seeing how challenging this moment is for women everywhere, I feel pulled to guide you toward freedom, independence, compassion, and confidence, not into what society expects, but into what your soul truly needs. If my voice feels like a warm place for you, like and subscribe. It helps this message reach more women, and trust me, what I reveal at the end is the part no one expects. You know, we live in a culture that repeats one mantra: be successful, be wealthy, be beautiful, be impressive. Social media throws polished lives at us from every direction. Endless stories of people who were nobody and suddenly became somebody. And while you scroll, a quiet question creeps in. Why am I not there yet? What is wrong with me? Why does everyone move faster than I do? But what if the real problem is not that you are behind, but that you are comparing yourself to illusions? If you think you already know this idea, stay with me. It is much deeper than you expect. Because here is the strange, painful irony. We all tell ourselves not to compare. We know it is pointless. We know it is unhealthy. Yet every single day we do exactly that. And it silently drains more emotional energy than any physical effort ever could. It eats at your confidence, your motivation, your creativity. It pushes you to prove something to people who do not even know you exist. And then I realized something so simple yet so shocking that it stopped me in my tracks. You cannot compare yourself to another person, even if you try your hardest. It is physically impossible, because you do not share the same background, you do not share the same childhood, you do not share the same emotional blueprint. Let me give you a small example. I used to look at beautiful girls on Instagram, effortlessly creating aesthetically perfect feeds. Their photos flawless, their videos soft and cinematic, their entire online presence polished like an art piece. And I would ask myself, why does my content never look like that? Why does beauty feel natural for them and forced for me? Then the truth hit me. Maybe this girl grew up in a family where beauty was everywhere. A home filled with aesthetics, textures, details, soft lighting, carefully chosen colors. This becomes part of your nervous system. You absorb it as a child. You integrate it like a native language. And I, for example, grew up differently. My parents are practical. No decorations, no jewelry, no makeup rituals, no aesthetic training. So how could I expect myself to create the same visual language as someone who has studied beauty since childhood, simply by watching her mother do her eyeliner every morning? If you are wondering why this matters so much, wait until you hear what comes next. Because background shapes everything. Some children grow up with parents who have time to nurture them, guide them, help them develop emotional intelligence. Others grow up mostly on their own, learning survival skills instead of self-expression. One child is encouraged to explore passions. Another is told, no, choose something practical. Years later, the difference becomes visible, not in achievements, but in inner clarity. When a child has support, they grow into an adult who knows what they love, what they want, what excites them. But when a child's desires were cut off early, the adult often wanders, unable to pinpoint what they truly want, always doubting, always searching. This is why comparison is not only unfair, it is meaningless. You are not comparing two people. You are comparing two lifetimes, two emotional landscapes, two invisible worlds. And here is where things turn even more intriguing. We think comparison is about visible things, money, appearance, success, but the real story is buried much deeper. For example, you might admire someone who built a wildly successful business, yet you have no idea that their personal life is falling apart because all their energy went into work. You see a perfect outside and assume it means a perfect inside, and still this is only the surface. The real distortion comes from social media. Many bloggers embellish their stories, twist them, polish them, or even invent entire episodes just to sell a product. I once watched a content creator confess that half of their emotional stories were made up, and I remember thinking I would never even imagine doing that. But for them, it was normal. Which means you are comparing your real life to someone else's scripted fiction, and that is a battle you will never win. By the way, if something here resonates, drop a comment. I love reading your stories, and your experience might help another woman feel less alone. So, what do we do? How do we protect ourselves from this constant feeling of not being enough? First, stop the senseless scrolling, not forever, just long enough for your mind to breathe, to restore its ability to think critically again. When you consume too much visual noise, your brain stops distinguishing truth from exaggeration, authenticity from illusion. And remember this: half of what you see online is designed not to inspire you but to sell to you. Real success rarely looks glamorous. Real growth is slow, subtle, intimate. It shows up in quieter ways. You communicate better, you react more wisely, you trust yourself more than last year, you feel calmer inside. These are real achievements, but against the neon circus of social media, they seem too small, yet they are the foundation of everything. Another practice that saved me is writing down my personal progress, not external milestones, but the inner evolution. I do it every year on my birthday. I ask myself, who was I last year? Where did I grow? Where did I handle something with more maturity than before? Did I become more patient, more courageous, more aligned with myself? This kind of reflection gives you the one feeling that comparison will never give you: fullness. A deep sense that you are actually living your life, not running through someone else's storyline. If you think the conversation is about to end, stay with me. There is a twist yet to come, and it changes the way you see your own path. Because here is the final truth. Happiness sits so close to you that you can touch it with your eyes closed, but it slips away the moment you chase impossible standards and fantasy lives. When you compare yourself to unrealistic versions of others, you shrink your own worth without even noticing. Your journey is not meant to follow straight lines or dramatic leaps. It is a mosaic of choices, lessons, tiny adjustments, moments of insight, gentle breakthroughs. And when you honor this process, you start seeing your life clearly again. We forget that we are not born with equal emotional equipment. You might have grown up with a mother who dedicated every second to her children, giving you empathy, resilience, security. Another woman grew up alone, unsupported, forced to mature too early. Someone else was encouraged in their passions. Another woman was corrected, limited, restricted. So how can any two people be compared? Your story is yours alone. Your starting point was not theirs. Your battles are not theirs. Your strengths are not theirs, and your path will never look like anyone else's. Here's the part I promised you from the beginning. Comparison steals not only your joy, it steals your identity. The moment you stop comparing, something extraordinary happens. You begin to see who you truly are, not the version society wants, not the version social media rewards, but the version life has been quietly shaping inside you all along. And if you have ever doubted that your pace is enough, listen closely. You are not behind, you are not late, you are unfolding. So let me leave you with this. Protect your mind from the noise. Celebrate your real progress, not the fictional standards of others. Look at your story with tenderness, with respect for the conditions you came from, with gratitude for the resilience you built without applause. And remember, your achievements do not need to look dramatic to be meaningful. They simply need to be yours. If today's conversation stirred something inside you, if it helped you release even a small weight from your chest, like the video, subscribe and share your thoughts below. your voice matters here, and sometimes your comment becomes the sentence another woman needed to read to breathe again. This journey continues, and something tells me the next insight waiting around the corner might change more than you expect.